everyone. Welcome back to She Wears Podcast. Today's guest is Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So can you tell our listeners what triple positive breast cancer is?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are lots of different types of breast cancer. The most common is called IDC, Invasive Ductal Carcinoma, and that's the one that I had. And then within those different types, there's also what we refer to as receptor status. And that is what I mean when I say triple positive, or you may hear triple negative, or you may hear hormone positive or HER2 positive. So there are three main receptors that a breast cancer cell can have. Two of them are hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and then the third is this one called HER2. HER2 is in the medical world a relatively newer discovery. There was sort of a subset of hormone positive patients who weren't doing as well long term, and they were curious as to why, and so their research discovered this third receptor. So the hormone receptors mean that hormones, estrogen and progesterone, are feeding your cancer, helping it to grow, helping it to multiply. And then HER2 is basically a protein receptor, and it allows the cells to grow more quickly and replicate more quickly. So HER2 cancers tend to be more aggressive. So if you're triple positive, it means you have all three of those receptors, and that may sound scary. But when they gave me my diagnosis, they said, if you're going to get a type of breast cancer, this is the one that you want to get. Not that anybody wants to get one, but they've developed different drugs and different treatments that target those receptors. So you have more treatment options if you're triple positive, or even if you're hormone positive or just HER2 positive. But you can have any combination of those three receptors, or you can have none. So triple negative means you don't have any of them. Triple positive means you have all three. And then you can be anywhere in between, just the hormonal receptors, just HER2, one, the other. So that's basically what it means.
Oh, wow. So what have you learned about yourself when you were diagnosed with cancer?
A lot. One of the things I share often is, I call it lessons cancer taught me. And every year I start writing down, starting on my cancerversary, which is the day I was diagnosed, I start writing down the lessons as they occur to me. And then every year on my next cancerversary, I start sharing them online from the previous year. So I have, I'm not sure, probably 75 of them now that I've just kept collecting over the years. So there's a lot of things, but I think the main things that I learned about myself, I like to call myself a recovering people pleaser. So I was just a serial people pleaser all my life. I made decisions based on what I thought other people wanted. I behaved based on what I thought other people wanted. I, made sacrifices in relationships to be more like how I thought the other person wanted me to be. And going through, I had already started to have that realization about myself. But going through cancer, you have so many people around you if you're lucky. But one thing that I realized after, many weeks of trying to find the answers outside of myself, I realized that, cancer is one of those times in life where people can support you. They can give you advice or opinions, but all the decisions, that really, it's on you at the end of the day. Like, no one can make any of the decisions for you. And I was waiting for someone to tell me what to do, because I'd never really relied on myself before. I'd never really asked myself what I wanted. And I took an integrative approach to my healing, which means that I did some things from the conventional world, like surgery and certain drugs, chemo and treatments and things like that. And then I did a whole lot of other stuff from what we would refer to as the alternative world or the natural world. So did a lot of lifestyle changing and diet overhauls, and then a lot of specific treatments from that world, like mistletoe therapy and high dose vitamin C IVs and lots of things. I won't get into the technical aspects of all of that because there was a lot, but taking a combined approach like that, I really took charge. I like to say that I joined my healthcare team, or I even like led my healthcare team. And having to rely on myself so much really helped to start breaking me out of that cycle of people pleasing, because I couldn't rely on anybody else except for myself. And once I made those decisions, it was on me to stick to them, to reevaluate them, decide if they were still working. So it was really the first time in my life that it was all me. And I think nothing other than my life literally being on the line and my quality of life being on the line, nothing else would have made me stand up for myself in that way, for what I thought was right for me. And so, yeah, that was like the biggest lesson and the biggest area of growth for me, for sure, was, yeah, just learning how to rely on myself and trust myself. That was a huge one. Learning how to trust myself, that I really did know deep down in my gut, you know, what was right for me and what wasn't right for me. Yeah, so that was the biggest area of learning, for sure. And then that led into me, you know, starting to believe a lot more in my self-worth and showing myself a lot more love and care, and realizing that I was worthy of the same levels of love and support that I was constantly giving out to other people, that I didn't need an excuse like cancer to be worthy of receiving that love and support from other people, that was, you know, just as I am, I'm worthy of it always. So yeah, those two things were probably the biggest areas of learning and growth for me, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like people like me and you, like people pleasers, like before we've been through something serious, it can change us to put ourselves first and love ourselves more. So yeah, I definitely agree. We do have a question. Somebody asked a question. I'm gonna put it on there for you. That they said, "Asked you beat cancer." Can you see it?
It's not. We always think of cancer as like when you finish treatment, you're declared, you know, cancer free. It's not as black and white as that. So technically, no, I don't have cancer anymore. But because recurrence rates are so high, they won't declare you cancer free, officially cancer free, until you get to 5 years after your diagnosis. So for me, that's in July. So that's a super exciting landmark. So I'm right now what we call NED, no evidence of disease. So if you were to do tests or scans or anything like that, there's no evidence of it that they'd be able to detect. So no tumors, nothing like that. And I've been that way since I finished my treatments in 2018. So yeah, I mean, in my mind, for me, yes, I have beat cancer. In my oncologist's mind, it won't be until July.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. I'll be praying for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So can you tell our listeners what inspired the Solis Cancer Community?
Solis.
Did I pronounce that right?
Solis.
Solis.
Yeah. Well, because I took, so I'm a teacher as well. I do so many different things, but I'm also a high school substitute teacher. And so I love sharing my knowledge. I love sharing what I know. I love helping other people learn and understand things that they haven't previously. And when I'm anxious about something, when I have an issue or an obstacle that I have to get through, my instinct is research. I start learning as much as I possibly can about my situation and about what I can do to help myself out. So yes, it's an anxiety response, which I learned after I was diagnosed. But it is a very helpful one in this circumstance. So yeah, I just sort of kicked into research mode, and I spent the first 6 months just consuming everything I possibly could about breast cancer and cancer in general, you know, like the root causes, why it develops. Because I was 28, I didn't smoke. My genetic tests for things like BRCA, they were all negative. Don't really have a family history of breast cancer. So my risk factors were very minimal when you think of the typical traditional risk factors. And so I really wanted to know why this had happened so that I could, 1, heal it more effectively, and 2, prevent it from coming back. And I remember I asked my oncologist, you know, why do you think this happened? To someone who was so healthy. And she said, well, you know, you can't know for sure. So, you know, just don't worry about it. And I couldn't not worry about it, of course, because I didn't want it to come back. And that's the biggest thing, trying to move forward into life after cancer, is like handling that fear. And I knew doing everything that I could to prevent it from coming back. Having that knowledge that I was doing that was going to help me a lot mentally and emotionally, just as much as it would physically. So yeah, I spent a long time learning a lot, talking to everybody. I had, you know, at one point I had 3 naturopaths, my medical oncologist, and my integrative oncologist. So I had a ton of healthcare professionals that I was, you know, conversing with and asking for advice and opinions on, and then doing a lot of my own research in like scientific journals, not just like Dr. Google. And I learned so much, so much. And I also came through cancer very well, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And initially I didn't really know how I had done that, really. I just, it just sort of, I took a day at a time. And so part of the inspiration or the motivation, I guess, for starting Solis was the blog. Initially, I wanted to write, because one of my subjects that I teach is English. And so I've always enjoyed writing, and it has always been therapeutic to me and really helped me work through things. So I wanted to write about my whole journey so I could, you know, start to think and figure out how I had healed on so many different levels in the way that I had. So that was part of it, that it was for me to kind of have somewhere to write and work through things. But then also I recognize that not everybody has the same instinct to like jump into research as I did. Not everyone has the same ability to dedicate their energy and their mental capacity and their time to that, especially after a cancer diagnosis, when you have so much going on in terms of appointments and things like that, but also just mentally and emotionally, it obviously really takes all your attention. So I wanted to make it a little bit easier for other people to learn the things that I had learned, to find the resources that I had found, to find the research that I had found. So that was the other main motivation. And the motivation for my Facebook group as well. It makes it a little easier to share all sorts of things in there. So yeah, it was a combination of me wanting to work through things for myself through writing, but then also feeling as though it was almost my responsibility, I guess, to share that. I was journaling right after I was diagnosed, and the first moment of positivity I had in the days after I was diagnosed was when I was journaling and I wrote. I had the realization while I was writing that I was probably going to learn a lot, and that meant I probably was going to be able to share that knowledge and really help other people. And it was the first time I felt any flicker of like hope or positivity, or like, I have to get through this. I want to get through this. I'm going to get through this. So that I can help other people do it as well. So yeah, once I did get to that stable place with my health, it was just this kind of knowing inside of me. It just kept poking and saying like, okay, start sharing, start writing, start.
Yeah. Because when I viewed your website, I was like, wow, they have a lot of resources on here to help people who have breast cancer, who's going through it. So it's good to build that community to help them.
Yeah, and that's, community is such an important part of getting through cancer, because I mean, some people don't want to share about it, they don't want to talk about it, some people don't even want, you know, their friends and extended family to know what's going on. And I find that's the case more with women, because my theory is that we want to take care of everybody else around us, or a lot of us do, and that's sort of the impulse or the default, and so we want to protect people. And also it's really hard, unless you're going through it yourself, it's really hard. Friends and family can sympathize and they can support, but there's certain things that no one can truly understand unless they've gone through it themselves. It's such a complex, nuanced, emotional and mental journey. It can be super confusing. And so having people who have gone through it or are still going through it and are in the same place you are, just people to talk to ask questions to, or if you're doing it for a loved one too, because caregivers and even people who are serious about prevention, if you're at a higher risk for cancer, we have all sorts of, people who are in the Facebook group and who read the blog. So just asking, having somewhere where you can ask questions and get that support from people who really understand is vital, in my opinion. Especially to the mental and emotional health piece. That's really important. So community is super important.
That's true. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about your courses and events you have going on?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I created was an interview series. So I talked to professionals. It's all about mental and emotional support after you've been diagnosed with cancer. So I talked to a number of different types of professionals, yoga teachers, meditation teachers, oncologists, psychologists, naturopaths, all sorts of people, writers, artists who use their art forms in a therapeutic way. And just, tried to cover as many aspects of supporting mental and emotional health after a cancer diagnosis, just as many aspects of that as possible. So that's the first thing. It's called Heal Your Spirit, Heal Your Body. So that's one of the events. And then I've hosted other on the YouTube channel. I hosted a free series of interviews as well, called Empowered, and that covered all different areas of health. So we spoke with dietitians, we spoke with physiotherapists, with oncologists, with therapists, with cannabis practitioners, just all areas of physical, mental, and emotional health in relation to cancer. So that one's on the YouTube channel totally for free. And then I have a course on the website called Clarity in the Cancer Chaos. And it's all about risk reduction, because after you finish active treatment, everyone, and myself, like for me, I expected to just feel happiness, to be like ecstatic that I didn't have to go back to the hospital for a really long time and just to be done with it. But it's this really strange mix of emotions. It's really scary to finish active treatment because you're seeing your oncologist all the time. You're at the hospital every 2 weeks or every day if you're doing radiation. So you're seeing nurses, you're seeing medical professionals, you're getting checked up all the time. And you're doing these treatments that give you a lot of confidence that you're, doing things to fight this and to get better. And then one day, all of that just stops, like very suddenly. And I remember my last appointment with my oncologist after I'd finished all of my active therapies. And she said, "Okay, I'll see you in 6 months." And I was just like, excuse me? 6 months? Like, that's a really long time. A lot can happen in 6 months. Yeah. And I was, we're sort of sent on our way without any tools for risk reduction, because conventional medicine is very, very good at addressing what's happening right now in the body and helping to get rid of, those tumors. But they're not so great with prevention. And I just felt sort of like, set out to sea and adrift. And I think a lot of people that I've spoken with, a lot of people feel that way after treatment is done. They want to do things to reduce their risk, but they don't know where to start. Most people don't have an understanding of why their cancer developed in the first place. So they really have no idea which of the many possible areas of health to focus on. They don't know which ones to focus on, which ones are, the main ones for them. So what my course does is helps you identify those main areas of healing, and then get, more specific even about the ones that are most important for you. So we talk about, testing, we talk about diet, detoxing, supplements, mental and emotional, spiritual health. I cover, and it's sort of like a starting place. It's like the basics for each of those 5 categories, because I didn't want it to be super overwhelming. I wanted it to be like easy to follow, very doable, like here's a starting place. It's great for people who have been diagnosed with cancer and want to reduce their risk of it coming back, or they want to support their healing if they haven't reached remission yet. And even it's also really great for people who are concerned about their risk because maybe they haven't had cancer yet, but maybe they're BRCA positive, or maybe they have a family history of it, or maybe like me, when I was younger, I was just worried about getting it in general because I'd seen my dad go through it, and so I was just really scared of cancer. And so so people who want to reduce their risk, it's great for that too. For people like that too who haven't had it and just want to make sure they're doing everything they can to help improve their odds of it, never happening in the first place.
That's true. Because pancreatic cancer runs in my family.
That's what my dad had. Yeah.
And I'm scared. My grandmother died from it. And when I was in the hospital, they said it's what you eat and stress. Stress can kill you, and it can cause cancer. And then what you eat can kill you and can cause cancer. I'm like, wait, what?
Wait, what?
Like, pork and stuff is not good for you to eat. And I did not know that. I've been eating like bacon and everything.
Right. I know. And we often aren't told these things, and or you don't know unless you ask. And I mean, stress is huge. It really affects, because when we're stressed, our body goes into fight or flight mode, and it's a survival mechanism left over from when we had to worry about things like, predators eating us. So we're meant to be in this stress response state very briefly, just fast enough to fight off whatever's, trying to get us or run away from it. But our animal brains can't tell the difference between a quick immediate threat like that or I'm having a really stressful period of time at work. So you can end up being in a fight or flight response, in a stress response for days or weeks on end, and that's when we start calling it chronic stress. And when you're in that state, your body starts shutting down the systems that aren't vital to fighting or fleeing. And it starts redirecting all of its resources towards things like your muscles and your heart and your lungs. So it actually increases your blood sugar to give you more energy, and cancer absolutely loves sugar. And it starts, and it shuts down your immune system, shuts down your digestive system, because we don't need these things when we're trying to fight something off, and it wants to give as much energy to like your muscles and your heart as it can. And it's fine if that's just very, very brief, but if we're talking, weeks on end where your digestive system is compromised and your immune system is compromised, that's not good at all. And then stress hormones like cortisol, it causes inflammation in your body. It causes your blood sugar to rise, as I said, and cancer loves those things. So stress has a really big impact on our health physically. And that's not something I knew at all until after I had been diagnosed. And I had a very stressful couple of years leading up to my diagnosis. So I think for me, at least, that was definitely a factor for sure.
Wow. So let me ask you a question. This is out of the questions I was going to ask you. So what would you recommend people to do so that they can lower the risk of cancer? Like, would it be yoga? I mean, of course, eating healthier and better and leaving out work.
So I mean, there's a lot. There's a ton, and I do a lot, and probably a lot more than a lot of people would. It's really about finding the things that fit your lifestyle that you're going to be able to do consistently. So exercise is super important. And so I try to exercise for half an hour a day, at least 5 days a week. And it doesn't have to be strenuous exercise. Just walking for a half an hour a day can reduce your risk dramatically. So I do a combination of stuff. But I do yoga, walking. I'll do some higher intensity, like HIIT training and stuff like that. But mostly I'm just, doing like things that I enjoy doing, hiking, dancing even. So like finding ways to work exercise in that's fun for you is always helpful. And then, eating well. There's no one set anti-cancer diet that's going to be great for everybody. Some people swear by a therapeutic keto diet, and that works really well for some. Vegan works really, really well for some, not for others. What I ended up settling on was sort of a modified paleo diet. but the big things to avoid for everyone, which is unfortunate because we all love these things, but it's sugar, dairy, and refined grains. Because these are all things that are very inflammatory, that raise our blood sugar dramatically, and are harmful, can be very harmful to our gut, and cause leaky gut, which is basically you get these like microscopic little tears in your intestines. And if it happens often enough, your body can't heal them, and then these tiny little food particles escape out into your body and cause inflammation and things like that. So those three things: refined sugar, dairy, especially cow dairy, and refined grains. Those are the big three to cut out from your diet. And then I aim for 4 to 5 cups of vegetables a day. So that's what I aim for. Some people go as high as like 9 or 10 cups if they're like actively healing. But for most people, like as many vegetables as you can fit in as possible, from all the different, the rainbow, have the rainbow of vegetables. Those are the things. And I think like trying to be as clean as possible in what you're eating, organic as much as you can, especially when it comes to dairy, because if you're not eating organic, if you are still having dairy, you're getting extra hormones, you're getting antibiotics, you're getting lots of stuff that you don't want. Eating as much organic produce as you can. But I mean, vegetables in general, organic or not, like just that if you can't afford organic, or you can't find, some people don't have organic close to where they live, just like have vegetables and wash them really well. And then being as clean as you can in the products you're using. So your body care, your makeup, your cleaning products, trying to use ones that are as natural as possible and don't have the big baddies that people are starting to recognize, like BPAs and sulfates and phthalates and things like that. Those hormone disrupting chemicals and all that bad stuff. So those are and then managing your stress, because as I said, so that's going to be different for everybody. What works for everyone is different. But meditation, yoga, activities you find relaxing, like reading, or those coloring books, like the adult coloring books, arts and crafts, hobbies that you really enjoy. Showing yourself some care and some love, because we tend to not do that in today's world. It's like self-care is the first thing that goes by the wayside when we have a lot going on. So really taking time for you, and to manage your stress and keep.
What about vitamins? Because I've been taking vitamins. Well, my doctor told me I had to take vitamins because calcium deficiency. So I have to take vitamins.
Which can cause lots of issues for sure. There's some really great supplements. I mean, supplements are one of the most personalized areas of cancer care, because everyone has different issues that they need to work on, and not everyone's going to need the same supplements, but there's like a few that everyone, I mean, antioxidants, like your vitamin C, of course. Vitamin D is so important. You can get your levels tested. It's just a simple blood test, but most women who are diagnosed with breast cancer are deficient in vitamin D. It's really great for your immune system. So vitamin D is super important. Turmeric is very anti-inflammatory, and it's one of the most studied anti-cancer compounds. Those are some, like big ones. And a probiotic. Oh my gosh, probiotic is really important for everybody, for your gut health, because your gut health is so, so, so important. About 70 to 80% of our immune system is actually housed in our gut. So if your gut is off, your immune system is likely going to be off. So supporting good gut health is really important too, which is another reason for vegetables, because lots of good fiber, prebiotic fiber, to feed all those good bacteria in there.
I'm learning a lot from this conversation. I do not eat vegetables, and my cousin got on me. My 22.
Before I was diagnosed, I was lucky if I had baby carrots in a day.
I'm like, no. And she got mad. She's only 22 and I'm 34, and she's like, you don't eat vegetables? Like, she got mad. But so on your website, you mentioned, I mean, there's a section of your freebies. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
For sure. So the first one is the diet guide. So it's a pretty comprehensive guide that's going to be just supportive for anyone really looking for better health, but I've geared it towards cancer, obviously. And so, yeah, I talk about some of the major things to include, some of the major things to avoid, and why. Everything I have in there is supported with research. There's an extensive list of articles in the back that I refer to throughout the ebook. So if you want to learn more, or you want to see where that information came from, it's really easy to see. So that's on there totally for free. To get it, you do have to put your email in, and then you end up on my mailing list. But if you don't want to be on my mailing list, that's fine. You can just unsubscribe afterwards. But you do have to put your email in so that I can send you the link to get it. But yeah, that's on there totally for free. And then the Empowered series that I mentioned, if you go to the freebies section on my website, that has the link. It'll take you right to the playlist with all of those interviews. And as I said, that's, we spoke with dietitian, with physiotherapist, with art therapists, cannabis practitioner, oncologist, psychologist, don't know if I said that, authors, so lots and lots and lots, meditation teachers. So lots of areas of health are covered there, not just mental and emotional, but physical health as well. And then I think the link under that category, the link to our Facebook group is there as well. And I post in there a couple times every week, and I share all sorts of different stuff from a bunch of different categories. So I share recipes, I share new research that's coming out in the conventional world about, new drugs or new areas of research for cancer specifically. I, share info about resources, free events that are happening, like talks and lectures and things like that. I share inspiration. That's where I share my lessons cancer taught me. I create meditations and things like that. So I share those in there. Vlogs that I talk a lot on the YouTube channel about mental and emotional health. That's mostly what happens on that channel. So all the my vlogs on various aspects of mental and emotional health, I always share those in the Facebook group. So yeah, tons and tons and tons of free stuff gets shared in the Facebook group. And yeah, you can get to that. It's all over the website, but it is in the freebies section too. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm going to go in there and look.
Definitely. Yeah. Go for it. And then of course, like everyone in there, you're welcome. I'm mostly the one who posts, but people post questions sometimes or things that they find. So it's a very supportive space too, because everyone's sort of in the same boat. And we do support each other with asking questions, answering questions, sharing resources.
Yeah, that's amazing. I want to thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming on my podcast today and educating us.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.